drinking wouldn't have allowed me to explore this other area of me, and kind of was keeping me at this level. Like drinking, when you're drinking a lot, never elevates you. It never progresses you forward. All it does is just keep you here. Keeps you here. You know, you never have heard anybody ever say that I am really glad I started drinking again. Nobody's ever said that, because there's no reason to be glad. If you've stopped and you've seen the positive aspects that drinking has made towards your life being improved in every way, shape, or form, it's like there's no reason to look back. And that's where I'm sitting right now. I'm really not even like, oh, I'm 100 days sober, I hope I can make it 100 more. I'm almost like drinking isn't even a thing for me anymore. I don't drink, and life has gotten so much better without drinking in every way. So I know a lot of people hit me up on Twitter about being sober. I know a lot of people always ask me questions about it. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. I want to form a place where people can get together and talk about issues with addiction. It doesn't have to be limited to alcohol. It can be any other addiction. I know there's every addiction out there. And even if you're having a hard time in life with depression, if you're having a hard time in life with your family, with work, anything, I know that everybody needs somebody to talk to, and not everybody has somebody to talk to. So I'm going to use Ruin Your Day as a platform for that. Every week on Wednesdays, I haven't decided a time yet, probably around 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to have Ruin Your Day live for an hour. And basically what's going to be happening is the chat is going to be live, and that's going to be used as the floor for everybody to talk. I might be on a video feed answering questions to the chat. I might pull up some music that Ruin Your Day made to play. I might play some video in the background. It's going to be sort of a free-form vehicle type of feed. There's not going to be really a set thing that we're doing. The only thing that I want to go on is I want people to feel like it's a safe place to come into and talk and vent, talk to other people, maybe give advice. I'll be in there if anybody wants to ask any questions about being sober. I can give whatever advice I can for that. And yeah, essentially, I just think there needs to be a place like that. I think AA works really well for a lot of people because it's a community. It's a strong-knit community. You have a sponsor that holds you accountable for not drinking. You have other people that are going through the same thing as you. You realize there's a whole world out there of people that just don't drink. And that's rare these days, honestly. So I want there to be a place like that on Ruin Your Day that's doesn't have to be just limited to alcohol. It could be anything. You know, like my parents went through some heart problems this year, and that really devastated me. So, you know, I needed somebody to talk to about that. My ex-girlfriend's dog that I really love got cancer. My close friend just had cancer. So it's been tough for me as well this year, and I'm really thankful that I've had Ruin Your Day to talk to you guys about battle rap and forget about the troubles in my life, but I want to give back, and I want to create a platform where we can all come together and sort of be each other's shoulder to lean on every now and then. So just wanted to make this video to talk about me getting sober, my experience with it. Honestly, to wrap this up, being sober is like probably the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. Me breaking up with my ex-girlfriend that I love to this day has been the best thing that's ever happened to me too as well. It's really like jump-started me to make big improvements in my life that I'm really proud of. And yeah, I mean, I think anybody out there that's struggling with addiction, the first question you need to ask for yourself, if you're thinking that you might have a drug problem, alcohol problem, any sort of problem, is if I'm asking myself if I have a problem, I might have a problem. Do you want to take the next step to solving it? Do you want to get clean? Do you want to get sober? And all I can say is being sober is amazing. It's great. I would never trade it for anything. It works really well for me. Other people can drink responsibly. I'm not one of those people. I can't drink responsibly at all. So yeah, guys, I just want to thank you all for helping me through my year of sobriety. You guys really made a huge difference in my life. I want to thank everybody out there that supported Ruin Your Day, all the patrons, all the people that did a watch episode, all the guests, all the people that tuned in for watch, everybody that bought merch, everybody that bought music. It means the world to me. So thank you guys. Boom, what's up everybody? Welcome to Ruin an Hour, a safe place to talk about everything from sobriety, addiction, depression, anxiety, balance in life. My name is Kyle Gray. I'm the host of this show. We are live twice a week, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, at 11 a.m. Sundays Pacific Standard Time. Today, once again, we are joined by a very special guest, my good friend Nick Lush One in the house. Is it 6 months or is it still 5 months of sobriety that you got?
Just on the precipice of 6.
Okay, right. Almost 6. Let's go. Yeah. So almost 6 months completely sober, which is absolutely phenomenal. Congratulations on that, man. That's such an accomplishment.
Thank you, brother.
But we had you on last week, and you talked about the process of getting sober. You're currently living in Texas at a sober living facility, and you're on the precipice of moving back to the East Coast with your girl, and just kind of wanted to have you back on again, and today you want to touch on triggers of addiction and how to prevent a relapse, which I think is really, really important. And then also, everybody in the chat, we're going to have a little Q&A at the end of this session where you can ask Lush anything, and he'll answer your questions. So,
any and everything. Yeah, once again, it's an honor to be here. Love to ruin an hour, you know what I mean? Like, there's 24 of them in a day, so what's the harm in ruining one? No big deal, right?
Let's go. That's the motto.
That's the motto, baby. You know what I mean? Yeah, so relapse prevention, it's as difficult and daunting of a task it is to get sober. Staying sober is a whole other thing. You know what I mean? And it's in some ways it's an even more difficult demon to conquer, because to me, like, the number one point I want to drive in during this discussion is the fact that there's a difference between being dry and being sober. You know what I mean?
What's that difference?
Truly living life on a spiritual basis, truly being in touch with yourself, your idea, your own individual idea of God and the universe, and trying to be the best person that you can be, as opposed to just not getting high.
So that's the definition of sobriety,
right? And
you felt like your previous, you were just dry.
At best, I've been dry. Now, like, there's been, everybody's idea of this is subjective. I'm not trying to impose my belief system upon anybody else, once again. But, you know, like, I've never even really been fully dry. Even the instances where I've tried to get sober, tried to get clean in the past, and gone to treatment centers, I was completely pumped full of medication. I would circumvent the system and try to get even higher. I remember, so the first time I went to treatment, it was a full lockdown juvenile facility with a juvenile diversion program called Anacapa by the Sea. It was in Ventura County, right above Los Angeles. I was 16 years old, had been getting into a lot of trouble, got sent over there, and obviously at that age, it's really difficult to get sober. Now, I do know people that have gotten sober at young ages. My brother was 20 years old when he got sober. He's now 32 years clean and sober. You know what I mean?
So that's amazing.
Yeah, and he works an incredible program and has saved many other people's lives. Worked at a treatment center. Shout out my brother Chris, and now he's actually the CEO of the company Indeed, the job search company. So he's an amazing success story of the program, and he did that just fresh out of adolescence. You know what I mean? And so it is possible. Now, for me, like, I was doing it because I had legal. I was only there because of legal reasons and my parents wanting me to.
Yeah, external forces were pushing you to get sober. It wasn't coming from within.
Right. And even there, like, it was so crazy. Like, not only the first thing that happened when I got to that place, which by the way, was subsequently shut down by the state of California, and was because it was a really corrupt, janky institution. Like they were pretty much running insurance scams. They were sending kids off to um, placement homes and all this kind of stuff, where the kids were winding up getting abused, and that was pretty much the biggest fear and the reason why I completed that program and didn't mess up even more, is because the fear of placement home and getting sent to like some Mormon camp in Utah was a pretty sufficient deterrent.
Yeah.
Although I was still like, so the first thing that happened when I got there is they gave me a shot, not like an injection shot, but a shot of liquid Seroquel. I don't know if you know what Seroquel is, but it's a really strong sedative. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
yeah.
What was the point of that?
Just I think to subdue you when you first get there, so you and kind of get you accustomed to being medicated, which you're about to be on medication for the duration of your stay there.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it was really intense. Like Seroquel, like it's not something that people recreationally use. It's not like sipping lean or something, which is a serious drug too, which is an opiate. But
yeah,
Seroquel is like, you're on your ass. It's the only thing really stronger is like Thorazine, which is that's what, like, if you're having a full on freak out, they injecting you and you're pretty much asleep for 2 days and wake up hallucinating. But yeah, like the whole time I was there, I was doing anything I could to get high. I would take, like, kids there were taking the tops of shaving cream cans, scraping the asbestos, like the drywall and the ceiling, like that bungee looking ceiling material, scraping that off the ceiling and railing it up and snorting.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
People ever want to know the depths of my addiction, the place I was already doing things like that at 16 years old. So I'm trying to circumvent. I was also like, we would make ourselves pass out, hyperventilate and pass out. So we would like cut off the oxygen supply to our brain. Like, these are the type of things kids do in juvenile facilities.
Oh my God.
Like, anything that you do, kids were hoarding pills and crushing them up and railing them. So, and every single time I got sober after that, I was doing little things, whatever I could do to just beat the system. I was never getting clean on my own accord. So trying out, like, at best, I was maybe, from the time I was 12 to 38, I was maybe dried out. If you take away, if you don't include medication, there's maybe like a few days where I was completely dry at best.
Yeah.
In a 26-year period. So I don't really have much experience with it, although I have seen what it looks like when other people dry out. Like you work a rigorous program, you know what I mean? Like, you do, I'm pretty sure, daily meditation, you do a lot of spiritual reading and do it. You have a program and a regime. You're big on physical health, obviously. We see the muscles. So that right there, like, I would never consider you dry.
Yeah, the thing is, though, I have gone dry before, and that's where I empathize with you a lot, because before I got sober, I quit drinking for 113 days. Really random number. But that, I don't consider me, like, getting sober. I consider that drying, because basically what I was doing, I was just white-knuckling it until that period was over. And then I didn't really want to drink that bad when I started drinking again, but I just started again, like, immediately. Like, the end of it, the 113th day was my birthday. And that was the thing. It was like I was going to go get a drink with my ex-girlfriend. And I remember, like, getting it. They, like, set the drink down. I remember looking at it and being like, I don't really want to do this, but I guess I should. Like, it's such a weird thought. And then I did it. And, you know how it goes. Shit just snowballs and, like, got way worse.
So you're essentially, the whole time you're white-knuckling it, you're still in the mental obsession. You're just counting days until you can get faded again.
For real.
Still, like, and in your mind, it's like this. And so many people in addiction can probably relate to what I'm about to say. When you're a drug addict and you run out of drugs and you're like, okay, like, I need to re-up. Like, your panic is in full force. You know what I mean? Like the anxiety, it's got your blood pumping, your palms are sweating, you're already anticipating like the drugs being completely out of your system and the inevitable consequences of that.
Yeah.
And the moment your dealer hits you back, the moment you hear his voice, you feel somewhat soothed. And that starts to feel better. And then you don't even need to get high. But the second you have drugs in your hand again, it's like the sweet relief. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost orgasmic. You don't even need to get high. That, at that point, is even more sufficient. You know what I mean? And when you actually do get high, that's just the icing on the cake. But just the security of knowing that you have that right there, it completely alters your entire DNA at that moment.
So how do you, now you're sober, you're in this sober living facility, you know, I have dreams of like doing my addictions. I have dreams of like drinking. I have dreams of shooting porn, and it's never a dream where it's like, oh, I wish I was doing that. It's more so I had a dream that I'm doing it, and I'm like, so like, why did I do that? So fucked up. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, thank God that I didn't do that, you know? So how do you like deal with those feelings, or do you even have those? Do you get triggered to this day?
Absolutely, 100%. I have those dreams regularly, and I have those. For me, the number one most important thing to do, and this goes back into the rigorous honesty. It all kind of goes back to the principles of honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to work a rigorous program. So, like, the number one thing I do is hold myself accountable. I'll speak on it, because these thoughts don't manifest into something powerful enough to make me relapse unless I give them that power. And I take away that power by speaking on them. Like when I was getting sober, when I was in treatment, there's all these different things that I'm ashamed of from my past. There's all these different things that I've done, thoughts that I've had, things that I've done that hold power over me because I don't speak on them. And the moment I share it with another addict in recovery, and they can relate to it, even if they haven't experienced it, just them not judging you. You know what I mean? And because, you know, it's important to have people that you can share this stuff with that aren't going to judge you. And even if they are, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because it immediately takes away the power, because 90%, and that's an arbitrary number, like my grandfather would say, 87.5%, but of the power is in the mystery and the fear of what's going to happen if you actually say something about it. And it takes away so much power, and so much power. Those thoughts, like I'll have dreams which terrify me. The other night I dreamt I was in Atlanta with one Asian homie that I have out there, and I dreamt that we were smoking weed and popping ecstasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I woke up like, oh man, that's another using dream. That sucks.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I talked about it and told Marissa and told other people, it becomes funny. You know what I mean? And we can actually talk about it. It's not, those thoughts don't consume me. When I told, you know, I was having, the other day I was thinking about when I used to sell a lot of blow, and I just would have, you know, ounces of blow at my disposal, and I could just do lines whenever I want. And even though I can't, like, I have a vague idea of a romanticized notion of what the feeling of being on cocaine is like. You feel me? But the reality is I'm only thinking, like I said, a romanticized notion. I'm only thinking about, like, the good parts of it. You know what I mean? And how I think it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to feel. Not the jitteriness, not the anxiety, not the uncomfortability in my own skin that it actually produces. I'm thinking about, oh yeah, this makes me feel really sexy and cool. You know what I mean?
And you think about like the 1 second of like goodness surrounded by like a bedrock of just terrible shit.
Right. And that thought, you know, those thoughts were kind of bugging me out, and I was feeling restless, irritable, and discontent, and it was just kind of eating my lunch for a while until I talked to Marissa about it, talked to a couple of my homies at the sober house and let them know, and was like, and that right there took so much power away. And then I got a rush from being honest. You know what I mean? Like, so that to me is the number one most important thing is when those thoughts pop up, those triggers, speaking on them. And I think that what it comes down to, I look at it kind of like what I call it is spiritual currency. You have a spiritual bank account, and you're putting, every time you do something like prayer, meditation, helping some service work of some kind, helping people that are struggling, doing things like this, talking to other addicts, you know what I mean, and spreading the message, anything that is helpful to others and is making me a better person. That's me putting money in my spiritual bank account right there.
Yeah, word.
So then when I get hit with that spiritual tax, you know what I mean? When something comes up, like a big trigger, like, you know what I mean? Like, like I'm feeling good. It doesn't necessarily have to be something bad happening. It could be something bad, like I'm feeling upset by different things I'm reading online. I'm feeling left out. I'm seeing other people succeed, and I'm feeling jealous about it. You know what I mean? Like, all these things which could trigger me. Or, hey, I'm doing well. I just got 6 months sober. I'm moving out of the sober house. I could afford to party. Hey, they got 2-for-1 micheladas at this bar over here. What's up with it? You know what I mean?
Word.
Like, all those. If I have enough spiritual currency in the bank, then I can afford it when those things pop up. And I'm not gonna succumb to those demons. But if I'm not doing all this stuff, it's about, it's like siempre listo. You gotta stay ready. You know what I mean? You gotta be always ready, so you don't have to get ready. You don't have to prepare at the last minute. You know what I mean? So that to me is super, super vital. And another huge aspect of building up that spiritual currency is, for me personally, and everybody's different, but I think this is something that across the board you'll see is mutually exclusive. And this is beyond just being honest. I spoke on this on my YouTube channel recently, but I didn't speak on this aspect. It's something that I forgot. Is not just being honest, but living up to my word. Big, small, ugly, tall, and I'm not saying I'm perfect about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I strive for progress in this arena. Like, if I tell you I'm going to be available this time, being available this time. If I tell you I'm going to take out the trash, I'm taking out the damn basura. You know what I mean? Like, living up to my word, doing what I say I'm going to do is so vital, because especially for me, it's about the old habits run together like gang members. You know what I mean? So dishonesty, unreliability, and using. Those are three things that go hand in hand for me. Yeah. So if I'm indulging in any of those habits, the other ones are quick to pop up too. If you call one of your homies, the other homies might just show up as well, and it's the same thing.
That's really, really true. That's really, really true, because it's like, I don't know if they talk about this in your program, but like the inner outer circle whole thing. So if you're like doing stuff like that, where it's like dishonesty will lead to possibly, cutting the corners with other things. That's really, really true. And I know from my experience, that's been extremely true. Like doing something that's a little bit in my inner circle, it just like goes deeper in like real fast,
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000,000%. And it's like, we touched on this briefly last time. A relapse doesn't start when you have a bag of Coke in front of you and you're chopping up the wine. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm spiritually fit enough, and I'm not saying I'm going to put myself in these positions, and I'm still pretty new and young in my recovery, so I'm avoiding those scenarios like the plague at this point. But based on my field, being in the entertainment world, and hip-hop and battle rap, I'm going to be in a position where drugs are around me, where drink is around me. It's inevitable, you know what I mean? And if I'm spiritually fit, I will not succumb to it, even if I feel like doing it, you know what I mean, if I'm working this program. And that's because a relapse starts way before that. It starts when those things start penetrating those circles, you know what I mean? Like and it starts with me being subtly dishonest. It starts with me not going to meetings. It starts with me not doing my nightly inventory or not meditating, not tapping in with my sponsor, and then those things just continue to snowball until it's a damn avalanche.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. That's true. Um, Let me ask you this: like when you talk about something that's like I can empathize with, and that resonates with me a lot. When you're like, I'm feeling good, I'm like, moving to a new state tomorrow, moving back. Like, there's all this like good feeling in you, and that is oftentimes when people actually do relapse, because it's like, oh, I'm feeling so good. Like it's almost like, like a dog that's like happy, then all of a sudden like pees, or something like that. It's just like there's so much excitement that you just want to let it out. What do you think about when you get triggered? Like if you're like walking in the airport and you do see a bar and you're like, oh, that would be so great to go have a michelada. Like, what do you think about to curb that trigger?
To me, that's a great question. So what you're basically talking about, and I think why so many people at those moments tend to want to relapse and tend to sabotage all their progress, is something called euphoric recall.
Yeah,
because when I've been celebrating in the past, my great victories, my great shining moments, I have drugs and alcohol associated with them. So when I'm feeling that way, my brain automatically is wired to thinking that, hey, this is a great time to use, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to what we were discussing earlier, the romanticized notion of what that feels like. It doesn't remind you of the fights that you got in that night. It doesn't remind you of the stupid things you did, you know what I mean? Like the hangover and all the bad feelings, and then you skipping the gym and all the subsequent chain of events of malady which wind up inevitably occurring, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just thinking about that moment. And for me, what I have to do, again, it's about keeping that spiritual currency. So when that does happen and I do get triggered, it doesn't overwhelm me. And if I do really feel, I think for me, just prayer is really strong. And if you're not into prayer, meditation. So I'll just take a moment to get centered. And and for me, like, I pray, like I really like on the Ruin Your Hours that you've been having with Finesse and RX. Shout out to the queens, you know what I mean? It's been, I love when y'all talk about manifesting. So
yeah,
my form of prayer, like I don't pray asking for things. I pray thanking God for what, even if I don't already have it, if it's something I want in my life, something that I strive for, I pray for, in the present tense, being thankful and showing gratitude for it, like I already do have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Word, that makes sense.
And there's a really good book, I forgot what it's called, but that concept derives from, and that right there is, when I heard that, it blew my mind, because it's prayer and manifestation simultaneously. It's a super 2-for-1 deal at the same damn time. and that right there helped me so much. It just to get outside of the moment, and oftentimes not feeling satisfied in the present moment, and just not even being satisfied, but feeling the present moment, which is something I hear you talk about a lot, and something that anybody in recovery needs to embrace, in my opinion, is the present moment, even if the present moment is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you could look at it like, yeah, this sucks right now, but this is what it is. This is the experience. Like, I just got stung by a wasp right now, and I don't need anything else, but I'm feeling this pain from the moment, and then this is what's going to happen next. And I'm not saying be complacent. I'm not saying allow a bad situation to just continue to unravel, but be accepting of the moment, be present in the moment, and then figure out what you got to do to improve your situation without getting caught up in selfish devices. You know what I mean?
Yeah, word. I mean, that's really true. And I think also, like, that saying comes to mind is, this too shall pass,
Right.
When you are in comfortable situations, feelings are transient. Like, no feeling lasts forever, period. Happiness, sadness, joy, anger, everything is just passing through you. So no matter what you're feeling, even if it's pain, like being stung by a wasp, it's not going to hurt in a minute. Just go
Right.
through it, let it pass through you, go through the feeling without judgment. Even if you're triggered, it's going to happen. And when you're getting sober and you're trying to recover, you're going to get triggered. It's bound to happen,
100%.
So I think what you're saying is definitely a really interesting perspective of thinking about being centered, being honest with yourself, and also thinking about the bad aspects of everything that surrounded your addiction, of using. That's what I always think of, if I ever get triggered, is just like, well, how am I going to feel after?
Right.
That's the important thing, because my life is going to go on after that. After I do that thing, life is going to continue. So how's that going to go?
Like, play the tape through to the end. Don't just stop the movie halfway. You've seen this movie before. What happens? It's like watching Scarface and stopping the movie right after the Push It to the Limit montage.
That's hella funny. That's a great analogy. Like, it didn't end there, dog. It was terrible.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
word.
Like you saw what happens in Blow when George first got with Penelope Cruz.
Yeah.
But then what about when she snitched him out? You know what I mean?
Word.
I'm sure you can relate to this too. Like, as far as being present, organizing and being a part of these battle rap events, and all the stress, anxiety, anguish, discomfort that goes into it. And then when it comes to the actual moment when the battles are going on, we're sometimes so consumed with, oh my God, John the Don's Uber still hasn't pulled up, or whatever, all these crazy things that we don't get to actually enjoy. When we look back and reflect, we're like, oh my God, this was so awesome. We didn't even get to experience or be present in these incredible moments which are bringing joy to so many people, because we're so obsessed with what's happening next that I wish I could have been more present in so many of these incredible things that we were a part of.
Dude, me too. It's like I look back on times that I was like drunk, or like, when I was doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing, and it's like a lot of those things I don't even fucking remember. It's like the best of times you thought were the best of times, you don't fucking remember at all. Like, I was literally trying to describe the first time I drank the other day, and I don't remember the first time I drank. Another reason why drinking is just like destroyed me. It's like I have a terrible memory, like absolutely terrible. But yeah, it's just so crazy how we really seek out that like removing ourselves from the uncomfortable, when really all it's doing is removing ourselves from ourselves, and it's like,
right.
When we look back on it, like, it's like I've been wasted filming battle events, like fucking drunk as hell. And then I like think about it, I'm like, why did people continue hiring me? It's like I was like flat out drunk, making erroneous errors, like big ones, and being like, I don't even remember certain battles, like Blackout 5. I don't even remember most of Blackout 5.
Aptly titled event.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's just so wild that we don't think about that when we're like triggered. It's like, it's not gonna be that good. It's not worth it,
And I think that at those moments, one the reason why so many people succumb to them urges and actually wind up relapsing is because it's always peppered with an aura of ambivalence.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just like, you don't even care.
Yeah.
It's like, it don't matter. I'm finna use, like, I don't even care what the end of the movie is. I just don't want to feel like this.
Yeah.
And I know when I've been like that, I'm unwilling to even examine alternative possibilities. But if I was aware then of what I'm aware of now, that simply centering myself, breathing, trying to, maintain conscious contact with my higher power, and just taking a second to think about it, I would be straight.
Yeah.
I'm be all right. I don't need it. I've spent enough time away from it now, and I'm still so young in my recovery, you know what I mean? But I know that something I never, like, for me, the thought of, beyond all other drugs and alcohol, just smoking weed, I never thought that I was resigned to the fact that I need to smoke weed for the rest of my life.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to touch on that? Because there's actually somebody in the chat that's been talking about that. He says that he's sober from alcohol, but he can't quit smoking weed. And I actually get asked that question a lot, to be honest with you. And since I was never, I never smoked, really, I can't really talk on quitting it because weed is a difficult thing sometimes for me to, like, really truly be like, you need to stop it. Because alcohol, for me, I'm just like, your life is better without alcohol, period. It's like, there's very few good things alcohol brings to your life. If you're a person that is not an addict and can drink once in a blue moon or every now and then, fine, more power to you. That's wonderful, But a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey, smoking every day really, Tim is in the chat. He's saying that it helps with my depression. I'm like, if I don't smoke, my depression cripples me. There's other people that are like, I'm an insomniac. I can't sleep unless I smoke. Like, what advice would you give to them? Because you're a person that I know personally, you thought you were going to be a weed smoker every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. If your life is still manageable, if marijuana is not impairing your life and not holding you back and not causing you to lose...
Wait, Lush, let me give you a call back. I think your connection is poor.
Okay.
Just sign off your Wi-Fi and sign right back on, and then I'll call you.
Yes, sir.
All right, peace. Sorry, guys, we gotta get Lush's beautiful face on the screen. But yeah, Tim, I'm gonna ask him about weed, so we can get that. I feel weird calling it weed. I feel like that's like what a square calls it. Pot. The devil's lettuce. All right, that better?
Yeah.
Cool, I got you. So,
cool.
Sorry, you can start at the top.
Yeah. So, again, if smoking weed for you, if your life is still manageable, if you're not destroying relationships, falling into financial disarray, getting in legal trouble as a result, and you don't have it, you might not be a drug addict to that degree. You know what I mean? And I'm never going to tell anybody not to do what they do, not to have a drink occasionally, not to smoke weed daily. For me, myself, I'll tell you what, I don't buy the whole I need to smoke weed thing. I just don't buy it. And I'll tell you why. Because every day of my life, since I was 12 years old, like whoever, I guarantee you don't smoke more weed than I did. You know what I mean? You're not more dependent on weed than I thought that I was.
Yeah.
I promise you weren't smoking quarters to the face every day. You know what I mean? You're just not for 26 years. There's very few people on this planet that have consumed as much marijuana as me. It just, and it's not something I'm proud of at all. It's not a badge of honor. It might have been something that I derived some false esteem from in the past, but I'm under no illusion. It's not something I'm embarrassed about either. It's just a fact. I was a big stoner. Now, was it difficult to stop? Yes. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I would have been able to do it if I wasn't in a full-on treatment facility and getting off of a bunch of other drugs, and weed was just part of it. And then by the time I was over detoxing from all these hard drugs, I was like, damn, I haven't even smoked weed. And you know what? I don't need it. You know what I mean?
Let's go.
I don't need it anymore.
That's amazing.
If you could stop doing heroin, which has a gnarly physical withdrawal, you could stop taking Zen alcohol. Alcohol is one of the worst drugs as far as there's two types of drugs where the detox is potentially fatal.
Yeah.
And that's alcohol and benzodiazepine. You cannot die from detoxing off of cocaine. It's impossible. You can't. You know what I mean? You cannot die from detoxing off of heroin.
Yeah.
There's only two types of potentially fatal detoxes, and alcohol is one of them. Marijuana, you might have a hard time sleeping for a couple weeks. You know what I mean? You might be able to transition by just taking CBD supplements in the meantime, or melatonin, which I don't do any of that stuff personally. But if you need to for physiological reasons, but at the end of the day, marijuana is not physically addictive to that degree as to where you're going to die if you stop taking it. You're going to be okay.
Yeah,
Those
for
thoughts are
sure.
inclusion. No, I'm not saying you need to quit.
Yeah.
I'm not, would never tell anybody else how to live. Now, I'll tell you this. I feel a lot better now that I'm not relying on that external device of filling my lungs with, excessive amounts of smoke to the point where I'm choking. And I love smoking weed. I always will. I have fond memories and fond experiences with smoking weed, but it's not something that I ever need to do again.
Yeah, I agree with that. See, the thing that I struggle with oftentimes when asked that question is I do want to go to the thought process and buy into the concept of what you just said, of you don't need a substance to be you. And I know a lot of people that do think that. And I'm not saying the reasons for thinking that is invalid, but from my vantage point, I always think of depression and anxiety are a call to action that something is not right within yourself.
Right.
And if you're numbing that out, then you're not properly addressing the root of the problem. All you're doing is making the voice a little quieter every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, people will say, well, I don't have the money for therapy, but they're still spending, you know what I mean?
On weed, for sure.
Hundreds of dollars a week on weed when you could, if you have severe trauma and you have PTSD, things of that nature, there's EMDR therapy. There's deep therapy that you could go to that will help you deal with it. There's trauma therapy that you can engage in, which in the long term will provide a lot more solace for you than blazing up a backwood.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. And I'm not I'm not trying to sound demeaning. It would be hypocritical for me to talk down on people smoking weed. And I totally get it, but I definitely take objection to the point of I need. Because in reality, you need water, you need food, you need shelter, you need to urinate, to defecate, to breathe.
Yeah.
And you don't need anything else.
That's true. And
when
you buy into that, that's immediately giving you a disadvantage because you're saying I'm powerless to this thing. I need this to be okay. You're giving it all the power. You're giving it the same power as water and food, just like you said.
And it's funny because I used to call weed my oxygen. I'd be like, "Yo, I need some more oxygen." Literally.
Oh wow.
but it's funny to say that because that word you use, powerlessness, that's bringing it back to the first step of the 12 steps.
Exactly.
Admitting that we were powerless over drugs and alcohol. You know what I mean? So if you're powerless, if you need something, then you might have some addictive tendencies there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Or else if weed's not a big deal, then you could just stop, right?
Yeah, for sure. And, it's like we're both saying, it's like we're not here to tell anybody that they're wrong for doing anything. We're just answering the concept of the people saying that I feel like I need this to be
right,
to be me, to be okay. And I don't agree with that thought process.
And I can relate. I could totally relate. But with time, hard work, effort, you can circumvent that. You can transcend that.
For real. I mean, I bring up this story all the time about this time that I was talking to a coworker about drinking back when I did visual effects. This was fucking 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember they all knew me as a big drinker. And one of them was like, I think I would be okay if I never had a sip of alcohol ever again. I remember looking at him like he was nuts. I remember being like, what? Never again? And it's just so funny because it's I was abiding by that thought that I was drinking is a part of me, and it's I wouldn't be me without it. My tank wouldn't be full without alcohol, which is so far from the truth. If anything, that shit was draining my goddamn tank,
Well, look at how much more, and you've always been a successful person and someone has a high level of achievement in their life. But I would say since you've stopped, your stock has gone through the roof on all aspects of life. You know what I mean?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You're so much more. You're able to do so much more, and you seem so much more fulfilled. And like we were just discussing before we got on the live, despite all the turmoil and trauma and bad things going on in the world, you've had one of the best years of your life. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. I mean, I always attest to that, and I think you can also agree with this, is that sober is just getting sober and going through the journey of really like going down a path of getting to know yourself more, and also learning all the things that you have wrong with yourself, learning that this is an ongoing journey, that there's no end. You know, there's no grand finale moment like, oh, voila, my life is perfect. This is it. You know, this is the end, you know. It's been so gratifying and so fulfilling in every way, and that creates a ripple effect in your, not only your life, but in everybody that you surround yourself with, because it's like they will see it and they will feel that energy and that frequency, whatever you want to call it. It's fucking real. It's hella real, and I've like experienced it. Like from me getting sober, it's like my whole family has cut back on drinking. Everybody around me is like cut back. Really, it's like, and you can even see there's so many different layers to it. There's so many different layers. But
I mean, part of me getting sober even was watching you and that energy being infectious to me. You know what I mean? Like it transcends to in ways that you might not even be aware of. And it's like I know so many people have hit me up in the past couple months talking about how I've helped inspire them to try to change their life and get some. So, you know what I mean? Like,
amazing.
These are people that I don't even know 90% of the time. Yeah. Again, with the arbitrary numbers. Before we move on, one thing I want to impress upon as far as a very important part of the relapse prevention repertoire is, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but getting out all the stuff, all of the things that when I was in treatment, like I spoke on so many things that I felt embarrassed about, things about my life, these thoughts that were consuming me, and not even on the forefront of my mind. I'm talking deep on a unconscious level, you know what I mean, going down to my id and dragging those up and taking the power away. Because there's a lot, like a common thread I've noticed in so many of the people that I went through treatment with that have already relapsed is that these guys were not doing that. They were holding things in. They were being dishonest about things. They weren't fully being vulnerable. And that wound up biting them in the ass. And then after they relapse, then they'll say, well, this is why I'm upset and this is why I relapsed and I never told you about this. But fool, we was in treatment for 4 months and you could have spoke on this the whole time, but you just wanted to maintain a certain image and seem like, you know, I'm not trying to hoorah, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
You wanted to seem cool and to these other junkies, you know what I mean, to the rest of us.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you had got this off your chest and taken the power away from it, you might not have allowed it to eat your lunch and then bite you in the ass.
For real. Yeah, for real. I mean, vulnerability is really scary, and it's really hard to do. But once you invest yourself in that, and especially being vulnerable about yourself, your fears, you know, a lot of the lies you've done, bad things, coming to be not shameful but remorseful of those things, it's so liberating. And you you can wear it like armor. You know, like when you are vulnerable, there's nothing, it's like the external doesn't matter at all anymore. You realize that everything comes from within. So that's really, really true. I definitely agree with that.
And that's like the humility it even requires to utter the simple phrase, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic. And there's a lot of people I've noticed that have an aversion to doing that and don't want to be a part of 12-step programs because they have to say, even years after they're sober, I'm an addict.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that humility right there keeps us close to our first step experience. It keeps us close to the fact that I am one line pill drink away from being back just as messed up as I was, if not 20-fold more. You know what I mean? It's that acknowledging that, it's that humility that it requires. And to me, like, that's strength. Like you said, wearing it like a badge of honor. It's not manifesting negative energy. It's, in fact, the opposite. It's deterring negative energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. So I want to open up to the chat.
Yes.
If you guys want any questions to ask Lush, feel free. He can answer any of those. He can't see the screen, so I'm going to be reading them off for him. I'll ask this question to you. Louis H., he asks, what about social drinking? Alcohol is in a lot of places I go to. Like, what advice would you give him about social drinking?
Well, it depends on, is alcohol something that is a destructive force in your life? You know,
yeah.
The average, there's different types of drinkers. Not to be a big book thumper, but page 23 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous discusses the different types of drinkers and the different types of alcoholics. There's some people that there's some people that recoil from even the smell of alcohol and don't want to drink at all. There's some people that can have an occasional drink, you know, every once in a while in a social setting and be fine. And there's even the people that will binge drink every once in a while and like to get faded, but then they could go back to living their normal lives and don't really suffer any consequences. You might be in one of those categories. And then in that case, alcohol is totally not a problem. You know what I mean? The individual has to come up for themselves and make an honest assessment of their lives and their relationship to alcohol and decide, hey, is alcohol a destructive force? Am I dependent on alcohol? Is my life unmanageable as a result of alcohol? And 9 times out of 10, like, if you go through the checklist, and you'll be able to see.
So he says either I smile a lot or I want to fight when I drink.
Well, I mean, like, wanting to fight when you drink is not necessarily a good sign, I would say. You know what I mean? Like, again, like if you want to, it's just like, how down the rabbit hole are you? Like, is it to the point where your life is unmanageable? Do you want to not drink at all? If you've already stopped drinking and you're trying to be sober and you're around people drinking socially, like I said, we talked about earlier, I don't know if you caught it, Louis, but we were talking about building up spiritual currency, holding yourself accountable, and trying to do whatever you can to prevent, because those triggers and those urges and those situations are going to pop up. But if I'm spiritually fit, I'm not going to succumb to it, and I can be around my homies when they're drinking, when they're smoking, and not hit the bottle. You know what I mean? If you're trying to be sober and you keep finding yourself, just falling victim to drinking, and it happens even though you don't want to, you might want to look into working a program of recovery.
Yeah, word. Hustle Crow asks, have you ever heard of RAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan?
I know that there's different non-12-step recovery programs, and some of them work for people, and if that works for you, do your thing. You know what I mean?
Word.
More power to you. I'm definitely not some 12-step supremacist out here trying to say this is the only way to get sober. Now, what I will say is, for me, this is the only way I can get sober. I've tried other methods of recovery, and they haven't worked. You know what I mean? And if you look at the statistics, there's nothing that's statistically more effective than the 12-step, program of recovery. But again, if whatever works for you, if fishing and playing golf is enough to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep you clean, and you're not just white knuckling in and thinking about, oh man, I just want to drink so bad, but I'm not going to. Because for me, I'm not spending my days obsessing about using and drinking. Like, I'm living a fulfilled life. I'm spending time with my fiance. I'm working on my music. I'm working on furthering my career. I'm working on helping other people. And all that stuff help. I'm working out, staying physically fit. All that stuff lends itself to a healthy lifestyle and being sober. But I'm not just not using all day and just fighting the urge to use. No, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, word.
And that's the difference between being dry and concisely.
Human asks, what do you think drives humans and even other animals to after or escape reality? To alter or escape?
Great question. My dog, Human, that's Human from Chi-Town, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's my dog right there. My phone him. Now, what I will say is this: in my belief, and I touched on this last time, is it's called a spiritual malady. It's some type of void, some type of hole within our spiritual connection
and just feeling incomplete, feeling like we're not enough, feeling uncomfortable in our own skin, and needing to reach out for external devices to make ourselves feel better. This is something that's consistent with pretty much every single human being on the planet. It's driven by 1,000 different forms of insecurity and discomfort.
That makes a lot of sense. Chris asks, after battling so many different addictions, what's the feeling you were trying to replace through those drugs?
Wow, that's a great question and very, very deep. I mean, for me, I think so much of it stems back for just feeling insecure about different things about myself, like feeling insecure that, you know, when I was a little ass kid, I really wanted to be an incredible athlete. You know what I mean? That was what that was like the paradigm of the social hierarchy when you're in 5th grade and stuff, was being great at sports. And I was never that athletic. I could memorize a bunch of statistics. And you know what I mean? Like, I could play. I knew all the rules, and I would bust my ass. I was like Kurt Rambis on the court, but you know what I mean? I was never really athletic. I would be consumed by fear and had different interests than kids. I always thought I was different. I thought I was weird. I was the only kid that liked role-playing games. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought that I was a weirdo and thought that I didn't fit in. And when kids would make fun of me about different stuff, you know what I mean? Like insecurity because my dad had a job that would make him be gone from the house for 6 months to a year at a time. So I would be, you know, home alone with my mom and feeling, you know, had severe abandonment issues because both of my brothers left for college when I was super young. My grandfather died, you know what I mean? My dad would be gone all the time. So I had severe abandonment issues that I dealt with. I would be paralyzed by irrational fears and things like that. So these are all things that that lended themselves to the initial reasons why I wanted to use, and then millions of other things that came up along the way. Just me not feeling good enough, me being upset about different failures and different girls that hurt my feelings over the years, and different like wishing I could be more successful, wishing that there's so many different reasons, wishing I still had a full head of hair, you know what I mean? Like wishing that my teeth weren't messed up. There's so many different things that drive my insecurities and made me want to use.
Yeah, for real. I mean,
and the fact that I could just speak about all that right now and just rattle all these off without fear of judgment, without fear of repercussion, especially being involved in a culture like hip-hop and battle rap where people use your insecurities against you. And I can fearlessly just walk through that. It takes all the power away from you.
Yeah, you know for real, man. I mean, great job on doing that. That's incredible because it's like that's not an easy thing to do, being in the industry you're in. You know, being an entertainer, you're supposed to be this infallible, cool thing that never fucks up, is always perfect, always knows the right thing to say. There isn't something like that out there, and if there was, it would probably not be anybody that we would like. You know, it'd be a robot, you know?
I grew up during the hardest circumstances, and I could walk through the projects fearless while shish kebabbing 17 females on my pinky. You know what I mean? Like,
for real. Louis H asks, did you quit drinking cold turkey, or did you start limiting yourself and stop slowly?
I went to detox. And there are different treatment centers and detoxes available. Most of them take insurance. There's some that are city run and free. I would recommend, if you don't have money, looking into the Salvation Army. There's a lot of different ways you could detox. And for me, that's what I needed to do. I quit all drugs at the same time, alcohol included, and detox in a facility. And that was the only way that worked for me. But you know, there's different ways that work for different people.
That's super incredible.
If you're not waking up with the delirium tremens, with the shakes, you know what I mean? You can stop drinking on your own. If you do have the shakes, it's actually very dangerous to try to stop drinking on your own, and you should consult medical help.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo that it's like not always safe just to quit cold turkey, and that doesn't make you that's not like that makes you a badass because you quit cold turkey. It's just the path that person went on, you know? So it's just
Yeah.
it's different for everybody.
No, it would literally be destructive advice to give people to tell them otherwise. If you are having physical withdrawal symptoms, and I'm talking about the shakes and, you know, the precursor to seizures and all that, particularly from benzodiazepine, that Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, and alcohol withdrawal, you need to seek medical attention, period. And those were two of my strongest drugs of choice, so I needed to seek medical attention for that.
Word up. Chris says no question, just wanted to send you strength. That's Maple Leaf, you know.
My
Chris,
boy,
hell yeah.
Big Maple from the Yaple.
Hell yeah, Chris. Good to see you in here, bro. Let's see. There's no other questions. You guys got anything else you want to ask Lush? I don't think I missed anything. How long have you been clean and sober?
Just shy of 6 months. It might be 6 months today or tomorrow. So yeah.
Congrats.
I gotta check my little app. It's called My Spiritual Toolkit. Recommended, free download if you have an iPhone or Android. Yeah.
You gonna find some meetings out on the East Coast?
Oh, absolutely. I'm already tapping into and now, you know, due to the brave new world of COVID epidemic, I'm still going to be attending my Austin meetings via Zoom. I go to a couple LA meetings. I go to meetings all over the world. I go to a meeting in Jerusalem. You know what I mean? Like,
really?
Meetings all over the world. Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I was in, I didn't ever do AA. I just did SAA, which is Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Yeah.
And I always thought how cool it would be to do those live. I'm like, why doesn't anybody just do those live, like tap into it? And I love that now, since we're forced to do that in the world we're in, that it is possible for you to go to a meeting from, if you can't be like, oh, I can't make it. Like, I don't have time anymore. It's like, just turn your phone on and you're there.
Yeah, like right now, I could literally be in my drawers and nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
You're just seeing me from you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I have pants on. I actually
do. Word. Wouldn't matter either way. Chris asks, where are you moving out east?
I'm moving to the suburbs right outside of Philadelphia. It's called Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. Beautiful, beautiful town. Yeah, I'm psyched. I'll be there for a fat minute before the wifey and I, we're planning on buying a house in LA, so we're stacking paper. Yeah,
God
we're
damn, that's incredible.
Our
Congrats on that. Wow.
I mean, got a ways to go. Don't get it twisted, but that's the move.
Fuck it. I mean, having that goal in the first place is an accomplishment, man, because that's a big thing to do, and I mean that just says a world about the mindset you're currently in. You know.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's a far cry from where I was at before when I was just like, I'm just trying to stunt. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, like not like there's anything wrong with that either, but it definitely shows that you've shifted your values a lot, and that's like a super positive thing.
Oh yeah, I mean we're gonna get married. We've been talking about children. Already have names for our future children.
Wow.
Like, you know, yeah. So this is the first time I've actually, while still living in the present moment, am thinking about what life 5-10 years down the line is gonna look like.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So what was the name of the app you just mentioned?
It's called My Spiritual Toolkit.
Word. And that just that keeps track of like how long you've been sober?
It keeps track of how long you've been sober. It has a little tab so you could do nightly inventory, and it has the different prayers, like the third step prayer, which is something that I say every morning. I'll just share it with y'all real quick. And you could have your own version of this, but I always say every morning, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Of thy power and thy love and thy way of life, may I do thy will always. Amen. You know what I mean?
Dope. Amen to that. That's amazing. That is incredible. All right, guys, we're going to wrap that up. Salute to Lush for being on for another wonderful episode. When do you want to be back, man? When do you want to come back on?
Whenever you'll have me, I'm available.
Next
anytime.
Sunday, you down again?
Let's do it.
All right,
same
cool.
bat time, same bat channel. You know what I'm
we
saying?
making it a thing. All right.
Let's do it. Let's
Lush
do
will
it.
be on.
Much love. I appreciate everybody. Shouts to all the riders. Stay tuned. Make sure that with Avocado's got the new Ruin Your Day studio opening up. Donate to that Patreon. You feel me? Donate to that GoFundMe. Get your weight got your head up if you want to see more incredible events like the bunker, more music coming out and everything. And drop in the For and a Baby video and song produced by Marv One, my single off of my Hyams album that's coming up very soon. So stay tuned in for that. And if anyone has any other questions or wants to reach out on any recovery-based discussions, hit me up on any social media. Tap into the YouTube channels. And, man, much love, riders.
Alrighty, guys. I'll see y'all later. Peace.